have anything that requires logging into the loop system, I would ask you to turn it into the loop system setting now. Thank you very much indeed.
I don't know what all that means.
You haven't got anything that needs a loop system then, don't worry.
For hearing aids.
Oh, hearing aids, no.
Can I ask anybody who is speaking, councillors, the mayor, speakers alike, speak slowly and clearly this evening, please. Speak slowly and clearly. This route is very difficult.
Does that include the mayor?
Longer than 3 minutes, is that speak slowly then?
Sir?
Now I close the back door. I have hearing aids, so I can't hear a thing.
Yes, certainly close that door, sir.
Okay.
Can I ask people not to move around during the meeting this evening? Please do not move around. Thank you very much. And can I ask those of you who are in the public gallery, please do not talk or chatter. It does disturb those people who are trying to got the loop systems. Also, it disturbs the councillors, what they're trying to listen to if they keep turning around and listening to people chatter. So please do not chat in the public gallery. There are opportunities to speak at council meetings. If you contact those in the office beforehand, you can choose to speak at a council meeting. I believe we have 3 speakers this evening. But I could ask those in the public gallery not to speak this evening. Thank you very much indeed. Also, the fire exits. Should there be a fire, God forbid, please go out the door you came in, please go out the door behind that gentleman here, or please just break the tape and go out the door to the left. You will arrive on the Guildhall forecourt where I will look after you. Okay, I believe that was all. Thank you so much indeed for your attendance this evening.
Well, good evening everybody, councillors and public. You're very welcome. This council meeting for January. My opening comments. I want to talk about councillors' code of conduct. The past few months for both council and councillors and staff have been very eventful, stressful and clearly counterproductive for everyone. What we must now do is to ensure that we put the needs of the town and its residents first and in the infighting and division. Over the last 12 months, there have been multiple memos reminding all councillors of their position, responsibilities and what is expected of them. While we do not want this to be considered another dressing down, all must follow procedures, policies and all act in a proper and responsible manner at all times. Unfortunately, over the last 3 months, there have been a number of breaches of both a confidential nature and compliance-based. Sandwich Town Council staff are now having to spend a large amount of time investigating these matters and work together with Dover District Council and the relevant authorities to ensure that we investigate and comply with these breaches and any ramifications that may result. These investigations are ongoing and have brought up some very salient reminders that we want to share with you. Firstly, each councillor represents Sandwich Town Council. In other words, you are Sandwich Town Council. As a councillor, you are personally liable for any claims made against you. Our insurance will only cover certain items under breaches and compliance. A potential GDPR breach could cost the council hundreds of thousands of pounds under our insurance, providing we follow our procedures correctly. But we would not cover any claim made against the councillor should they be found in breach of compliance or any other legal claim which would equally cost thousands. In order to protect you as a councillor and the council against further potential breaches and fines, we have reviewed a number of our core documents, which you will see later on the agenda, and policies, and these are being shared with you. It is important that these are not only read but understood and comply with them, and it will protect both you and the council. Thank you. So we move on to legally required business and approval for apologies for absence.
Councillor Friend, you have a work commitment.
Proposal please for approval. Approval. Second, thank you. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. Item 3, declaration of disclosable pecuniary interests and other significant interests. There are none. Item 4, minutes. 1, to approve the minutes of the ordinary council meeting in Sandwich Town Council held on the 20th of December 2021. Councillor Franklin.
At last council meeting, Councillor Linton was nominated to be on the HR committee as a permanent replacement of Councillor Broom. I don't see that it is on here that Councillor Linton being permanently on, because this is what caused all this problem. We must have 3 town councillors on the HR committee to make it 4 at this minute. So please confirm that Councillor Linton is a permanent member of the HR committee. Thank you.
Councillor Carter.
So I was going to ask items 17, 12, 21, the COVID contingency regulations, and I took this up with you, Mr Mayor, and said, why were we voting on them when the government hadn't brought in any regulations that required them? And you said, you did say to me that they were just in case. Well, now Plan B is being taken off from the 27th of January. Will we be taking the COVID contingency measures back off again? Could you confirm that, please?
Yes, we will. Councillor Subakai.
I'd like to speak in relation to, on 2 things, please. Number 1, 12/12/21, about the minutes. You've put Councillors Franklin Carter and Subakai voted against. Could it please say we voted against the minutes because we believe certain aspects of the minutes were inaccurate?
Yes, we can amend that.
Okay. And 13.12/21, could we have more detail on what people from the public come in and speak about? We've got here, Mrs Hayter spoke in relation to rubbish within the town. Did she speak about rubbish?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, I thought you came in to speak about... Oh, that's all rubbish. You spoke about rubbish. Okay. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Carter again.
So, under item 2012/21, White Ribbon UK, we didn't ask to have our votes actually registered for that at all, but I see that they were registered. And I just wanted to say, I think there should be an explanation also about that, because the White Ribbon thing, we all have our own personal opinions on that, and one of the opinions of that particular organisation goes against my very strong religious beliefs. And so my reason for voting against that was based on my own beliefs. And I don't want to go into that in the council chamber, but I think there should be an explanation as to why that came out like that. Because it's been put over to look like 3 of us are voting against violence against women, which is totally incorrect. And I think an explanation should go out about that. It's portrayed that we're condoning violence against women, and that is 100% incorrect.
I'll come back to you with an explanation. Councillor Franklin, I'll come back to you. Councillor Lintott is temporarily put on the HR committee pending the by-elections.
I'm a bit worried further on in the HR, it says Mr. Redmond is permanently there, because I did attend the HR committee and I'm not happy with the HR committee.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, just as a point of clarification, for Councillor Carter's point about White Ribbon, I was the one who asked for the votes to be recorded.
Can we present these minutes, note these minutes, please? Any other comments? All those in favour? Any opposed?
Are we voting?
Yes, please.
Are we voting with amendments?
Yes.
So I'm in favour of the amendments made.
Any against? Any abstentions? Right, that's carried, thank you. Item Item 5, Advisory and Asset Committee minutes. To approve the minutes of Advisory and Asset Committee held on the 10th of January 2022.
Acceptance, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second that. Any other comments? All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. Item 7, IT and Communication Committee minutes. To approve the minutes of the IT and Committee, sorry, HR Committee minutes. Item 6, to approve the minutes of the HR Committee on the 11th of January 2022.
That's a second.
Mr. Sibica?
I've read through these minutes very, very carefully, and I to understand that still the Human Resources Committee have delegated powers. So 3 councillors out of 16 will decide who gets to work here. It doesn't seem right. I don't.
That is what full council voted for.
When? Because I don't remember voting for it.
We can check it.
Please do check it, because I don't understand why anyone would vote for that, really. It just seems silly.
It was voted. We'll check the date for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Carter.
Just got a couple of items, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Number 1, in the paragraph 030122, it's quoted, the chair advised that STC is a small company. We're not a company at all. We're an elected council, and we should be run as a council. And I think this is what's causing a lot of the problems here, is we're trying to run something as if it's a business, and it's not business. We're here for the interests of the residents of the town. So it's not a company, we're not trying to make money, or we're not trying to take loans out, or run businesses from here. In fact, we shouldn't be running businesses from here. We are a town council, and we should be run by officers and elected individuals. So that's an important thing. Can I also ask, it says the co-opted member is for the recent past HR councillor. Is this going to be standard across all the committees? That we're going to have like a recent HR, recent assets management one? Why is it particular just the HR committee that we call somebody back who used to be on the committee but is no longer there? Because that seems to go against everything else that's on the committees. The other one was with the councillors having HR experience rather than being qualified, which seems a bit unusual. How are you qualifying HR experience? Because somebody on the HR committee told me they were on it because they're line managed and staff. Well, that's not exactly HR experience. So we need to quantify what HR experience is required to be on the HR committee. And lastly, to do with the staffing structure, is it also going to continue to do the salaries and make recommendations for posts without coming to full council? Because we seem to, I've mentioned this in previous meetings, we seem to be taking on more staff again when we've already told the public that we're reducing the staff to save costs. But as I said in the meeting just last week, you know, we seem to be taking on more staff. So I've got all those queries that I really need answers.
Well, I think that the Councillor Fox is the chair of the HR committee, can probably answer most of those queries.
First of all, very happy to change the word company. It is incorrect. Not an issue at all.
Thank you.
Your second point about Councillor Lintott, it was supposed to be temporary until we had new intake of councillors and then we could look at the construction of all committees, because actually they'll all have to change because there'll be more councillors to go around, so they'll all be looked at. So that's also not really an issue.
Thank you.
The idea of having a co-opted member from the last council was for continuity, because they have known what's gone before. And they know the staff, and that I think is helpful, which is why it's there, and it has been agreed. It was agreed that the committee would have delegated powers because to do efficient HR, you cannot wait to call 16 councils together to decide how you're going to do appraisals, etc., etc. There are things that have to be dealt with quickly, or if there are issues about, for example, a problem with members starting on long-term leave for a particular reason, or there could be numerous things, so you need a quick reaction and they have to remain confidential. And you can't do it with a group of 16, it's not practical, which is why it's a small committee, which is explained. And then, sorry, your point about, the point about the member of staff being advertised, that was included in the restructure, which has been to this council, was approved by this council and noted. And there was an opportunity, albeit rather late, but there was an opportunity for consultation, and full consultation was held. And there was always that money available. This is not new post, it's been budgeted for, and it's in the restructure. So we've already agreed that. I think that's it really.
Thank you, Councillor Potts. Comments? Councillor Hurd.
Can I say, as an aside, this really reflects a confusion about the numerous committees we've got. Some committees have delegated powers, other committees don't have delegated powers, and even in our brief discussion about the Assets and Advisory Committee, there's some reference to some delegated powers. This means that sometimes, perhaps mistakenly, the council agrees to a committee being set up without realising that the tasks set to that committee result in that committee making all the decisions that are really quite important. And I think we need to clarify which committees have got delegated powers, which haven't, and maybe initiate a discussion amongst ourselves about whether we should have any committees with ultimate decision-making powers.
I think it's fair to say that our Chief Executive at the moment is working through the terms of reference for every committee, aren't you? So the Council will be presented with new terms of reference for every committee. I don't know, will it be next month, will it? In the next couple of months or so, at which stage we can consider the matters. Councillor Carr.
Sorry, there was just one item that Councillor Potts didn't mention about. I was asking for a quantification of experience or qualification to being on the HR committee. So I was just wondering if that might be.
I'm sure she can answer that.
Yes, I'm sorry, there were a few items, I'm sorry.
No problem, please carry on.
The answer to that question is there's no requirement for qualification, but there's a requirement to have perhaps had management experience in HR, management experience, and knowledge of working practices. That's it.
So, in the meantime, can we note these minutes, please? Accept and note. Proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7, IT and Communication minutes. To approve the minutes of the IT and Communication Committee held on the 17th of January 2022. Second. Any comments? All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried.
Now, I have just one question, sorry. That's why I was going to have that, I wasn't voting on that. It's just, could we have a timeline? It's quite a nice question. Could we have a timeline on when it says the IT and Communications Committee is looking into the actual broadcasting and building of the meetings? Could I ask for a timeline as to when that's going to be done? Because it did say that would be done. I know a member of the public had raised that. So.
Councillor Lintott, do you have an answer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'll be arranging a meeting with the working group towards the end of this week. Obviously, we've got some investigation to do. Once we can get on with that, and we can start picking timelines.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask something? Did the communication strategy come as part of the IT minutes? Because we've been given a new communication strategy and to read, and I disagreed with a few points, but there doesn't seem anywhere on the agenda. Maybe I just can't see it. Are we discussing it under IT and communication?
Comes under GDPR, I'm told.
It comes under GDPR. Communication strategy. Okay, so we will discuss it later. Thanks.
Yes. So should we put process here? We passed that, didn't we? Item 8, Finance Committee meeting to approve the minutes of the Finance Committee held on the 17th of January 2022.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favour then? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Item 9, Planning Committee meeting minutes to approve the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 18th of January 2022. Councillor Johnson. Your second. Any other comments? All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Item 10, Advisory and Asset Committee meetings. To approve the minutes of the Advisory and Asset Committee held on the 18th of January 2022.
Close the minutes.
Any comments from the, all those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. Item 11, public request to speak. 15 minutes set aside to enable public to speak. Written notice has to be given, and I gather we've got three speakers tonight. Mr. Elliott first, please.
Good evening. Can I first of all ask, can you all hear me? Mr. Mayor?
I can hear you.
Clearly, and others? Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
I beg your pardon?
We can hear you.
Good, good. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I became aware of an interest of developing the affairs of the parish council when I learnt quite incidentally that an appointment had been made at quite a substantial salary without going through the normal process that I would associate with public appointments. And I should mention here that I was formerly head teacher of Sandwich Technology School at a time when the whole business of schools were being changed, and therefore it became jointly maintained, and I, as the head teacher with the governors, were responsible for paying everybody who worked at the school, be they ground staff, non-teaching or teaching. And what I heard came to me as a complete surprise. It was possible to do it without public announcements and the opportunity for people to compete for the post. That's, by the way, in the sense, and just gives you a reason why I'm interested. I then attended and asked for information, first by going online to find out what other affairs had been discussed. And when I went online in early December, I found no record whatsoever of any previous meetings for some weeks, months beforehand. I have to say that it did actually appear eventually, but when I looked, there was nothing there at all. I then made a point of going to Guildhall to find out and to make an appointment to speak at a meeting on, which I understood from my reading, was going to be on the 24th, but the secretary at the time told me that it was going to be changed, and she was slightly confused, but all due respect for her, she went to considerable amount of trouble to ensure that we got the right date, which turned out to be on Monday the 13th of December. And it's chiefly on my experience of that meeting which I wanted to claim 3 minutes, which is a bare time necessary. The experience was appallingly bad. It was held in this hall. It's the antithesis of a public speaking hall. Although clearly it is possible if everybody who is speaking, council and any others, make the effort to get into a position where they can speak clearly. And I noticed the 3 guest speakers moved to the front in order to throw their voices towards the back. And if anybody who is engaged in a public office will get themselves acquainted with 3 simple rules if you're going to speak publicly. And they are to throw your voice to the furthest recesses of the hall you're speaking in. Secondly, to articulate so that you speak clearly. And thirdly, not to rush, hurry or gabble. That's fairly straightforward, you would think, but it was totally unobserved, well, almost totally unobserved. And it's as an incidental sidelight on this. During that meeting, Councillor John Bragg, who was sitting in the main body of the council meeting, actually upbraided the people who were speaking and said, for God's sake, I think he said, for God's sake, speak up, I can't hear, and make yourselves heard. And I went to a committee meeting last Monday, I think it was, when the gentleman on my left over there came in and had to make the same point very forcefully. I can't hear you, speak up. It shouldn't be necessary for that to happen. Since I spoke and put in my written comments on the subject on which I wanted to speak, I had a very good letter back from the chief executive telling me that they've got electricians in the next day coming to service the leak, which is available for those with speaking hearing aids, and to establish the same sort of IT help in other areas of the Guild Hall. This hall, for example. But if you're not a good hearer, or you are without a hearing aid, in a hall like this, it beholds all of the speakers to speak up.
Mr. Elliott, you've had over your 3 minutes.
Right, well, I will rush through the rest to say the number of meetings held in camera, very disturbing. The appropriate technology has not been installed. For God's sake, there is IT readily available with microphones or loudspeakers or whatever. It's unnecessary for the public. Those sitting at the back of the hall can't follow proceedings. And the argument which took place when I was at that meeting between Councillor Cartwright and someone else about minutes not being taken, I thought was frightful. That minutes have not been recorded. Whether that's continued on, I don't know. But
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hayter, you're the next speaker.
Would you like me to stand down front now?
If you want to. You have 3 minutes, Mrs. Hayter.
Well, I hope I have as many minutes as the previous gentleman. Can everybody hear me? Jolly good. Having followed the procedure outlined to me by the Mayor, I am standing here yet again because that procedure did not produce the outcome that was promised. Yes, I did receive a response, but I didn't receive an answer. I asked the following questions. What action did Councillor Marie take, and what was the response to that action regarding the rubbish, furniture, bric-a-brac left outside the Asian shop in Market Street. Now, the response was, officers of Sandwich Town Council are unable to advise what Councillor Marley's actions were following your conversation, as we were not party to this discussion. Well, I stood in this very hall, and although they were not present when I spoke to Councillor Marley, I told them what took place. So everybody, including an officer, did know what that conversation contained. And I personally find it incomprehensible that an officer is incapable of simply asking Councillor Marley what action he may or may not have taken. Having said that, I have asked Councillor Marley 3 times for an answer. The answer has been promised but never fulfilled. I find all of this conduct totally lacking in respect for, concern about, or interest in the issues of residents, and that says an awful lot about this council. My next question was, considering what Mr. Friend said at the town team meeting, why does he continue to clutter the pavement, making life more difficult for residents, not to mention ignoring the concerns of businesses that surround that shop? And the response I received was as follows. We have not been involved in the communication surrounding this issue and are therefore unable to comment upon this question. However, may we suggest you broach the subject with Age Concern and KCC, who may be able to offer further clarification. As before, everyone at the council meeting, including an officer, knew about the issue, and again, no one used an iota of common sense, because all that was required was to ask Councillor Friend for an explanation which could then be relayed to the relevant